Videography is honestly the best when it's a team process. A collaboration and effort by a group of people all trying to achieve the best possible outcome. The laughs, the frustrations. That's truly my favorite part of this all. But what do you do when you don't have that? You don't have a client project, or your friends are all busy, or worse, none of your friends are even interested in this. I've gone through all of these things, and I think the pandemic made us all face this reality at some point. From gear to techniques to editing tips, these are my go-tos. Whether you're trying to practice, create a solo short film, or just tired of waiting for others, I've compiled everything that I know about creating effective videos without anyone's help. Let's get it. The gear you use will either make your life easier or a living hell. Trust me, I went through many iterations of the gear that I've used to film myself. And the biggest tip that I can give you is to keep it simple. Now, I understand that this is like the most boring thing you could ever buy, but it's a necessary evil. You literally can't film yourself without a tripod. I use this travel one by K&F Concept. It's not the best, but it's lightweight and it's simple, and this is why I like it. Now, this is where things can get superficial and the overthinking can set in. It really doesn't matter what camera you use. Yes, some cameras will give you a better image, more dynamic range, but if you focus on all these other elements, you shouldn't have a problem getting a cinematic image out of pretty much any camera you use. This isn't a necessity, but if you do have something that you need to say on camera, it is vital that it actually sounds good. I use these wireless microphones because I like to get distance and shoot very big shots like this where I'm actually far away from the camera. But the voice memos app on your phone works just as well. And honestly, this is probably my favorite method because I like to just get voiceovers in, random streams of thoughts, and then I can just lay clips over top of those in the edit to drive the story forward. Now, this right here isn't necessary. You can absolutely get great compositions without a light, but these just unlock so much freedom for you as a creator to just be able to shoot wherever you want to at any time. Now, this right here is the Amaran T2C. I have tons of different recommendations for lights that fit pretty much any price point. Links down in the description. Just choose one, get whatever you can afford, and learn how to use it. This right here will make filming yourself so much freaking easier. Now, this is where stuff gets fancy if you're into that. And sometimes I'm into that. I honestly wouldn't recommend anybody buy this unless you're already making a substantial amount of money from filming yourself, or you plan on using it for client projects in the future. It's expensive as hell. It takes a ton of time to get the shots that you actually want, but it 100% does make your shots more dynamic. I think the real key to filming yourself in a cinematic way is being able to see a scene cinematically without you in it, and then just inserting yourself. This comes down to compositions, layers, colors, framing, and motion. Now, I understand that this does sound extremely complex, but for me, whenever I get to a location, I just set my camera down on the tripod just like this, and I just go through these different elements of the shot. Framing really boils down to the intention of the shot. If we're trying to establish a location or a scene, I'm gonna be looking for an overall wider shot just to showcase to the viewer where we are. From here, I'll probably head to a more focused shot to further define myself or action in the scene. This would probably be a medium or a close-up shot. And then from here, I can also play with depth of field as well to further separate myself and focus in on me inside of a shot. Then it's all about details. These shots are usually close to extremely close macro to show the little things that are actually massive. Now, composition is the invisible language that essentially makes our frame as aesthetic as possible. It's very complex, but I really just try to keep it simple. I just use a grid, honestly. You put your grid up on your camera, on your monitor, your screen, and you just frame up your subject at one of these different points. Most of the time, it's gonna look good. And I understand that's very surface level for this concept. It's really all about experimentation, but at the end of the day, this is usually just what I do. Other things that can help you get a more aesthetically pleasing frame, leading lines, symmetry, all that stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's really just all about experimenting. Having multiple layers in your shots helps to create more depth. When you go to create a frame, think of it in layers. A foreground, a midground, and a background. And if you do this, you'll create some of the most dynamic images. Even though the majority of shots that you film of yourself will be static shots, you still gotta pay attention to the motion in the shots. People walking through, water in a lake moving, pedestrians walking through a frame. These are all things that are important, and just making sure that that movement goes with the natural flow of the frame. The leading lines. Basically just like a shot like this. I want to really quick show you some of my best tips for editing shots of yourself to make them that much better. I'm going to be using CapCut. It's completely free for anybody on a budget and has a few pro features that some of the expensive softwares don't even have. The first thing I want to cover is color. It's vital to help drive home that cinematic feel for your footage. If you filmed in log, the first thing you want to do is convert your footage to Rec 709 using a LUT. CapCut allows you to import any custom LUT, so just select yours and apply it. The look I'm going for is ultra warm, so I'm going to start by heading to the color wheels and dragging a tint wheel in that realm. From here, I'm going to pull some saturation from the shadows to make sure my blacks are clean, and I'm honestly loving where I am. I'll save it as a preset so I can just drag it over the other clips in the timeline, and we're solid. I love this because it makes the process so fast. I like to add just a slight zoom in and zoom out on my static shots just to give them that additional flair. All we have to do is head over to our basic video tab, add a keyframe on scale at the beginning and end of our clip, and slightly increase the scale on the last keyframe to add a subtle zoom into the clips. CapCut also has tons of different animations in the animation tab if you're looking for something more hype depending on your edit. Captions are another thing that really help emphasize the story we're telling in a project. CapCut will analyze your clips and automatically generate text captions for your entire project that you can edit and stylize exactly how you please. Throughout the intro, I really wanted to drive home that this stuff was in the past, so I added a retro effect to further add to that vintage vibe. I just searched up vintage and came across this retro DV effect I was really digging. Just dragging it over top of any clip in the timeline will apply the effect, and it's really that simple. Whether you're a creator on a budget or you're just looking to take advantage of some of these great features like auto captions, you can check out CapCut using the link in the description below. It's completely free and I highly recommend it. Alright man, so this is the dilemma. I'm editing down the behind the scenes part of this video and the audio sounds like trash. I'm on the side of a highway, all you hear is tractor trailers going 60 miles per hour past me and water splashing off their tires. So it's really unusable. Instead of me cutting out this part of the video, because I do feel like it's vital, it's important, it has some gems in there, it talks about my philosophy when it comes to setting up a cinematic scene of myself, I'ma just narrate it. I'ma just narrate it from my phone, set y'all down on my chai tea latte right there, and just talk through the process, man. And I just, this night had all the makings of being a great night for going out to film myself. It was raining earlier that day, and it was just foggy everywhere. Volumetric lighting everywhere, like perfect scenario to film myself. I pull up, I find this parking lot. The great thing about this parking lot is that it has one light. It's one bright light, and it adds to the dramatics of the lighting for the scene. Very backlit. You can see the fog, the wind, the smoke from the exhaust of my car. Everything just looks awesome. So I go in, I pull my car in, and then it's time to set up my cinematic frame. So first thing I do is I always pull my camera out and just set it up on a tripod and just try to create a frame that looks good before I insert myself into it. And I go through and I do that. And I decide that I'm going to use the slider. And usually I would be using that travel tripod, but I'm using it for behind the scenes. I need it. I decided to pull out my bigger small rig tripod, threw the slider on, set up the camera, got the perfect frame, and then some random guy pulls into the parking lot that works at the building that I'm in the parking lot of. Now right here, I'm wondering if I'm about to get kicked out, but just to be on the safe side and, you know, being able to be speedy in case we do get kicked out, I go through and I set everything up. I'm using the R5C, and this is very overkill for filming yourself, but I like it because it has one significant feature when it comes to filming yourself, and that's face-only autofocus. A face-only autofocus is on the Canon Cinema line, and it will only focus on your face, which means if you decide to walk out of a frame or if the camera loses you in the process of autofocusing throughout a shot, the autofocus will just stop. It won't hunt for the background, and I think that that adds to the aspect of filming yourself so freaking much. So I'm using the R5C. It's also the only other camera I have anyway, so I don't have another option regardless. But I'm using the R5C. I got my camera on a slider. This is the Edelkrone slider. Extremely expensive. I rarely use it, but when I do, I'm always happy with the results from it. Now that I got my frame set up, and I don't think that I'm gonna get kicked out of the location, it's time to set up my lighting around the scene. Now, the light that I'm using is the Amaran T2C. Talked about it earlier in the video, but again, I have tons of other options and different recommendations for lighting in pretty much any other budget range. Make sure to hit the link in the description to just check out lights. If you don't have one, definitely buy one. Now, when it came to lighting for the scene, I wanted to motivate the lighting from the bigger light source that was in the parking lot. And that'll make sense once we get to the establishing shot and all of that. So in order for me to kind of replicate the look of that light and not make my light look like it's out of place, I basically just place my light from the exact same angle, which is far side key, and then filming into that shadow side of myself just adds to the overall depth and contrast ratio into the shot. I hop in the car and then I basically just read off a few lines from my script multiple times. Now the thing that can help me, the thing that's gonna help you when you're filming yourself is just film in multiple takes, because you never know. I'm very far away from my camera, so I don't know if the autofocus hit, if it completely missed, if the slider messed up. So I'm just gonna keep on looping it. I'm just gonna keep on running through this take a bunch of different times to make sure I got it. And then from there, I reviewed it, thought it was good. It's time to head on to the next setup. Now, the fact that I already had this lighting set up as is, I was like, let me just try to film a different slider setup. So I moved the slider, and instead of me pushing in on myself, I decided to do like a horizontal move. So I wanted it to go from right to left. And this was a cool shot as well. I liked it. It had a lot of different layers into the shot. We got the foreground, which is my mirror of the car. I'm like mid-ground, and then we also have the background, but you can also see the atmosphere, the smoke, the fog, everything just kind of going over top of the windshield, which looked really dope. And that was that shot. So now it's time to film an establishing shot. Establishing is a wide shot, something that's big, something that just shows the overall scale of what we are and just gives context to the location. So one thing that I like to do when I'm filming my establishing shots is just film it as is. It doesn't matter if the lighting is perfect on the establishing shot, because once we move into the closer, more focused detail shots, we can bring in lighting that replicates the lighting from the overall establishing shot. So I basically just frame my car up with the grid lines on my monitor, that left side, and it just looks good. This shot actually looks fire without any additional lighting. That backlight from the parking lot, that volumetric lighting, the haze, the fog, it all just comes together. So I film my establishing shot, read off a couple lines from my script for the YouTube video, and then it's time for me to film my closer, more focused shots. Now the great thing about this setup, my lighting setup that I'm using, is that it's super lightweight, and the stand that I'm using also has wheels. So it was very easy for me to just wheel this light out of the shot, and then once I needed it for my closer shot, I just roll it back in. I'll leave a link to that in the description below as well if you want to pick up a rolling stand. It's just a lifesaver for all types of productions. I roll in my light, and from here, I'm just trying to match the lighting, make sure it doesn't look too sourcey. And I'm controlling it from my phone, get that set up, and then I film my closer shot, read a couple more lines off of my script. And my philosophy with the lighting here was basically the same, just filming to that shadow side of myself to get that contrast and nice cinematic depth. And then it's time to do macro shots. I don't really film many macro shots, but for the sake of this video, I really wanted to hone in and talk about the detail shots, detail. So I switch over to my macro lens, and I try to get some shots here. They weren't my favorite, but I think they added into the project and further emphasized what I was talking about. Now, as I'm about to break down and head back to the house after these shots, I find a really cool frame through the back of the car with the trunk open. And I'm like, yo, this could be a really cool shot if I can get myself through the rear view mirror. Now, the problem with this shot is that this is extremely hard to do, not only with somebody operating the camera, but it's borderline impossible without somebody operating the camera. I can focus on the surface of the mirror, but it's not gonna focus on me and my reflection in it. You have to get that depth perfectly correct, and it's borderline impossible to do so. So I experimented with that a couple times before I just realized I couldn't do it. And I decided to opt for a different frame, which was a little bit more layered. It had some foreground with the trunk frame, and then it also had the seat behind me, and then it had myself, which is like mid-ground, and then the background, which was the windshield and all that sort of stuff like that. And it took me a couple tries to get the focus on this to hit, but actually got it. It actually looks really good. If you made it to this part of the video, thank you. You are the GOAT. You are much appreciated. Go ahead and drop this down in the comment section below to let me know that you made it to this part of the video. this is my last upload of 2023. It's been a crazy year. It doesn't really seem that way through these uploads, but through personal life experiences, all this sort of stuff like that, it's been one for the books, and I just can't wait for it to be over with, man. If you enjoyed this video, it helps you at all, make sure to drop this video a like. And I hope you guys have an incredible New Year celebration. If you're into that, go ahead and write down some goals, some things that you want to achieve throughout this next 365 days. And I'm going to see y'all next week with an upload. Appreciate every single one of y'all who watch these videos, man. Y'all allow me to do this and allow me to have fun with a camera. Just some random dude in Virginia who uploads random stories and video clips and music video behind the scenes. It's so wild to me that so many of y'all decide to chime in on this content. It's absolutely insane, but I'm forever grateful, forever appreciative of every single one of y'all. And I'm out. Enough of the sapping, man. See y'all next year, man. Let's get to this grind. We out. Deuces.